Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening and welcome to the school board meeting for the School Town Speedway, June 12th, 2018. We are working from a 15-item agenda. The first item is to approve the minutes of the May 8th, 2018 meeting.
I'll move that we approve the minutes of the May 8th, 2018 meeting.
Thank you, Tom.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Bill. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
I'll take that from you.
Maybe I can drop it.
You never know.
Never get one, sorry. I'll look both ways.
New.
Take the little tip.
It's really nice to know.
Item number 2, approve extended field trip.
The Speedway High School cheerleading squad has requested an overnight field trip. We always ask that any overnight or out-of-state field trip be recognized and approved at the board level. You have a detailed itinerary. It does meet the criteria that we tend to put in. Frankly, I'll give credit. If you remember, it was the baseball team several years ago and Mr. McCormick who laid this out, and it really meets. I will say there's one thing that's not in this proposal, but I have cleared this with both the coach and the athletic director, and that is, should any student have a maintenance medication that's a prescription, that will be handled strictly by the coach and administered to the student at the direction of the parents. So we have that covered. So I believe we've got a good proposal and have every reason to think this will be a success. So I'm going to recommend you approve this extended field trip request.
I'll make a motion to approve the extended field trip for the cheerleading.
Thank you, Debbie.
Second.
Thank you, Laura. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the extended field trip. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item number 3, approve contract to continue affiliation with AP TIP.
And the Advanced Placement Teacher Investment Program started with us actually back in 2011 when we started to implement their material before we were even a part of their program. We were formerly a part of the program from 12 through 15. And each year since then have been invited by the group to continue to send our teachers. In fact, Mr. Probst is one of the supervisors, our semi-retired math teacher. And so we have remained a member of the group, and I'd like to recommend that we continue. This will likely be more significant this year than in past years in that three of our teachers who had a significant part of AP have either retired or moved on, and so we have new people. This will be, I think, a good professional development investment. So I'm going to recommend that you approve this contract to continue our affiliation with the Advanced Placement Teacher Investment Program through the University of Notre Dame.
Laura?
I move that we approve the contract to continue our affiliation with the AP TIP program.
Thank you. Tom?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the contract to continue affiliation with AP TIP. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item number 4, approve contract with AdTech for E-rate services.
We have been well, first off, quick history. E-rate is commonly called the tax on your cell phone that was never approved but is collected at the federal government level and dispersed to schools to help with and to fund internet connections, okay? As it is with anything with the federal government, it is a significant process to go through, and Charlie Hobbs, a former superintendent, retired and started this company. We've been associated with them since their inception. They have done a great job for us. It's a nominal fee, and it removes, well, what it really does is create the ability where the work is done quickly and it's done correctly every time. So I'm going to recommend that you approve and read what do I want to say? Reissuance of
Renewal?
Renewal, exactly. I would go so far as to say our relationship has been significant and that we would consider approving this contract for up to 3 years, the 3-year option, which means, as in any contract, we can always find a way out if need be, but this has been one of them. So I'm going to recommend that you approve the contract with AdTech, and if you're so inclined, go with the 3-year agreement, 2019 through 2021.
I move that we approve the contract to work with AdTech for our E-rate for a 3-year period.
I'll second.
Thank you, Bill. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the contract with AdTech for E-rate services for up to 3 years through 2021. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Approve the high ability plan.
And Ms. McIntosh, the Director of Exceptional Learners, is at the table this evening, as she is maybe once or twice a year. She is the, I won't say the author of the plan, but she certainly is the guide. And Andrea, I'd ask that maybe this, I believe, is now the second, or did we not make major revision last year? Third year. So how about a little history? Because I think the changes are essentially dates at this point.
About 3 years ago, we instituted a new identification system for high-ability students. That's enabled us to meet the expectation of the Department of Education that we're identifying at least 4% of students in each grade level as truly gifted or high-ability students. And so since then, with our new identification process, we've been able to not just go on nomination, but screen all students in certain grade levels, and then identify students from more diverse backgrounds has been one outcome of the new plan. In addition, it's brought more awareness to teachers about those students that are truly gifted and how they can serve those needs in classrooms. And it's brought more awareness to administrators on how we can strategically place students in classrooms, specifically at the elementary level, so that it's more beneficial for those students and the teachers to serve them. So at this point, we're, like we said, on year 3 of implementation. We get together once a year as a broad-based planning committee to suggest changes to the plan, and so the text in blue are the suggested changes to the plan at this point. We had some good conversation at that meeting about how we can continue to support our students and broaden the offerings that we have for high-ability students. And at this point, like Ken said, we're changing dates, but we still are having conversations that are leading to better outcomes in the classroom, I believe.
I think, is this an okay time for questions?
Sure.
That's probably where most of my questions would center around, like this page 6 where there are no changes to it. But I'm wondering about the changes we've made since last year when we approved this in terms of the curriculum and instruction that's happening in, and I guess mostly the elementary classrooms, because I think the junior high is more apparent. So are we doing these things? I mean, we talk about that the needs of students may be met in one or more of these, but are these happening in all 4 elementaries?
It looks a little bit different in each elementary. So over the summer, the principals get the list of students that are identified as high-ability students. And then based on the number of identified students at grade levels in certain buildings, the principals are then choosing their instruction methods from the approved list. So at Fisher, just having one grade or one classroom per grade level, she has to use more, I say she, Mrs. Snap has to use more options like the subject skipping. So she does have some students who need to go up to a higher grade level for a reading group or for a math group. Whereas at a bigger elementary that has 2 or more classrooms per grade level, they're able to cluster those students together and do groups within the classroom or do between class grouping. So it depends a little bit on the elementary. And I would say, yes, we are doing it, and I do think we're getting better at it.
But something is happening. I mean, so if a parent says to me, high ability, they don't actually do anything, that's not accurate. They just don't know.
Yeah, I would say they don't know, they don't feel it because our elementaries are so good and have been so good at doing groups at students' levels in reading and math for years and years. Those parents probably aren't realizing that what those students are getting in their group is significantly different than what other students are getting in their ability groups.
How's the best way for a parent to get an answer to, honestly, someone says that to a board member, because we see them everywhere. What's the best answer Laura could give to a parent to really get them some help, to understand?
If a parent were really questioning whether their student was getting anything in the classroom, I would first encourage the parent to talk with the teacher or the principal. We have several of those meetings a year where we sit down, and once the parent realizes what's happening in those groups, we've always walked away with everybody being happy.
Okay, let's take it one step farther, though. I'm standing out there at the ball field across from my house, and, well, I have talked to them, and da-da-da-da-da. Is it appropriate for me to just drop you a note and say, Andrea, reach out to?
Absolutely.
Do you have any hesitation about that?
No, please do.
We both know you and I have done that, but that we're not at all hesitant to reach out to a parent, just say, let's talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
Any questions? What's the board's pleasure?
Well, my recommendation is you approve or reauthorize, renew the high ability plan.
I'll make a motion to approve the liability plan as presented.
Thank you, Deb.
And I'll second that.
Thank you, Bill. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the high ability plan. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item number 6, approve publication of the 2017 annual financial report.
And every year, this report has to be approved by you and has to be published between July 31 or July 15th and July 31. For me, the interesting parts of this plan is you can look at receipts comparisons. Of course, that always depends exactly on what the state sources are, and you can see that shockingly, state sources were smaller. But and so consequently, we also always budget for a large transfer of funds from our self-insurance fund to protect the district. Reality is we haven't had to do that to have the budget balance. If we did make that transfer, our receipts would be higher than budgeted, but I think you know that I always budget receipts high and actual always come in low. Expenditures, on the other hand, I think the really good comparison is look at the total expenditures and you can see that we approve budget expenditures of nearly $21 million and actually spend more like 18. So next month when I start to talk about the budget and I say estimate revenue low and estimate expenditures high, this is kind of the evidence of that. It's also interesting to look at a little bit of where our teachers fall inside of salaries, and that's an interesting point that we'll talk about in negotiations in the future. You get a look at what our ECA positions pay. Those people do a great deal for us. Good look at all salaries for the public to see. Good look at our enrollment. Although I will tell you that enrollment was not the official enrollment. That was our high point, 1869. Count was 1855. And then finally, the thing that always interests me is the list of who we pay the money to, who the vendors are. That anybody like to predict, if you haven't looked on where the biggest vendor, look at that, health insurance, United Healthcare. case anyone wonders where the money goes. Retirement. So I'm recommending you approve this publication of the annual report and that you direct the treasurer or the secretary to sign this. You just have to approve it. He'll sign.
Laura?
I move that we approve the publication of the 2017 annual financial report.
Thank you.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the publication of the 2017 annual financial report. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
Mr. Smith, would
Passes
you
5-0.
be kind enough to sign so that I don't have to come to your home tomorrow,
Absolutely.
as I often do with the secretary, because I've forgotten? Of course, I believe I've chased you down at the golf course and visiting someone at the hospital once. Thank you.
Item number 7, approve summer school programs and contracts.
And we do have, these are final numbers now. Summer school is going in force. I went and visited classes today and could not have been more pleased all the way around at all the wonderful things that are going on. The total expense here is about $45,217. As I recall, I saw a memo from the state saying the estimated reimbursement was going to be $33,000. And so consequently, $12,000, you provided these opportunities for students. And I think that's a pretty great thing. I'm asking you to, now, this is a formal approval, because with this approval, we'll go ahead and pay these folks.
I'll make a motion to approve the summer school programs and contracts as presented.
Thank you, Debbie.
And I'll second that.
Thank you, Bill. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the summer school programs and contracts. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item number 8, approve institutional memberships.
And you have a list of institutional memberships in your notes. I'd like to make one note. We are also a member of the National School Boards Association, which keeps our credibility inside the state for different recognitions. By the way, you were an exemplary board again, and part of that. But the National School Boards Convention occurs in February, and I would really need one of you to consider as a school board member attending. So you might want, as soon as we have those dates, we'll want to get that out. So hopefully one of you can consider attending again.
It has been in March. Is it in February? Like,
You know what, let me, there are two, there's the
Okay.
American Association, but I'll check. But
That's-
if that's because you may be looking at your calendar, you'll get the
Yeah.
dates right away. We do need to be represented, guys. And so I'd recommend you approve these institutional memberships as presented.
I move that we approve the institutional memberships as presented.
Thank you, Laura.
I'll second.
Thank you, Tom. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the institutional memberships as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item number 9, approve contracts for physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, deaf and hard of hearing services, and behavioral consultations.
And the recommendation is that you approve the 5 contracts enclosed, but part of the reason I also have Ms. McIntosh here, understand that the reason we do this is we simply don't have enough incidents to justify hiring a full-time occupational therapist or physical therapist. So having these contracted services, number one, is financially in our best interest, but number two, takes a lot of work and a lot of tracking. And Ms. McIntosh is the one who has to track every one of these hours and turn them in for approval. She does a good job at that. The second reason I'm glad that she's here is because there's the addition of a deaf and hard of hearing services contract. For the last 4 years, we have shared a teacher with, of all places, Zionsville. When the cooperative split up, the teacher, who was just absolutely, and is a great teacher, but we have so few students, and Zionsville had more, and they agreed to share the expense with us, and we would essentially pay Zionsville. So we had that bill twice a year. Unfortunately, their deaf and hard of hearing population has increased, and they no longer can share the teacher with us. So we had to go out. Now, I'm going to tell you, that's one of those things in March where superintendents get concerned. These people are not out there. And we explored the concept of approaching our partners in Wayne Township. They also had a very full schedule. And lo and behold, while I was doing that, Andrea was able to identify through her Directors Association a potential candidate. So the candidate in the contract is a new person to us, but all indications are that this person is in the same quality of the person we've had. But now you'll know why I'm smiling at about half the cost. So I think this is a good contract. So Ms. McIntosh not only found the solution, she found it for less. So that's worthy of an attaboy. So given that, I'd recommend you approve all of these contracts for the coming school year.
Laura?
I move that we approve the contracts for physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, deaf and hard of hearing services, and behavioral consultations.
Thank you. Laura. Thank you, Debbie. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the contracts for physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, deaf and hard of hearing services, and behavioral consultations. Is there any discussion?
Do we have a sense of the use of these? I mean, it seems to me that anecdotally, I hear the teachers talking about almost an increased need in the behavioral consultation category. Is that in fact something that we track? Is that the case? Is that taken care of by this contract? Is that,
You want to take a shot at this one before I carry on?
Say the right thing. Yes, and our particular behavior consultant that we have now is excellent and requested often by teachers. This past year, we used her for more hours than we had the previous year. Exponentially, she became more available. She dropped some other places that she was doing a couple of other days a week. And so now she's with us for about 6 hours a day, 4 days a week, and varies her schedule based on what we need in the district.
The answer is anecdotally yes, and we have someone who has credibility, to the point that, quite frankly, I asked Andrea to try and hire her, and she's not interested in becoming a full-time employee of only Speedway. She has other places that are important to her. And so consequently, and when I really look at it contractually, we're just at about the tipping point when you add on benefits and things. It's hourly rate right now is probably slightly less, but it's pretty close. But yes, you're absolutely, this was, and frankly, we moved this expense into the referendum and the additional appropriation. It's just that important with some of the needs of our children. So you're spot on this one.
Is there any other discussion? All those in favor? Raise your hand. Opposed? The motion passes 5-0. Item number 10, acknowledgement of grants received.
And I'd recommend, Mr. President, that you look at the board, and if you can get consensus and a nod, I'd recommend you accept $350,869.20 in grants. I would just say, you can see the significant amount of funding that comes in, but I'll call your attention to 4 of the last 5 items and 1 item above. That is something that is relatively unique to Speedway. And
Absolutely.
so that was $98,000 this year in, if you all remember, selling air. Anybody opposing?
Doesn't look like it. Everybody seems happy with that. Item number 11, report regarding random drug testing.
And we have J.P. Claiborne, the new high school assistant principal, who has really taken a hold of this program, and he's going to share some things. And naturally, if you got the high school, we have Mr. Zartman here also. So if you fail, you got backup right there behind you, 45%.
Thank you for having me this evening. You have our summary of the random drug testing program, as well as the handbook rules and regulations regarding that. As you can see in the summary, we tested 15 students each month for a total of 150 students. We had 5 of those come back as positive. 2 were due to the prescription that the student takes, what we had on file. The other 3 were for other, and we took the steps in the handbook from there. I do feel like it's working very well. You can see of the 3 of the 150 that we had come back positive, compared to last year, that's the same number. However, we tested over double the number before. So it does appear to be a deterrent to use among those students that are in the pool. At the end of the year, that number fluctuates throughout the year, but at the end of the year, you can see we had 465 of our 509 students that were entered into that pool. So a significant portion of our students that can be randomly called on monthly to participate in this program. If you have any questions for me? Yes, ma'am.
What is, I guess, your thinking, I don't know, personally or institutionally, about the oral swab testing? And what do you know? Do you know anything about, like, what would be a little more effective and its cost comparison?
I don't have cost numbers with me. I think that this is a less invasive way to get an accurate reading on what's going on, and that's why that was chosen, and it does seem to be effective to that cause.
My best guess is that, I mean, the other test is a urine test. And they will well, I don't know if this company will do it, but there's another company that will. I'm going to guess that, gosh, 20 years ago, it was about $25 a piece. This is 17. Reasonably, I'll bet it's not more than 30 today. And if we wanted to move to that, what I would say is we want to really consider that. The way I'd recommend is that we continue with this program this year and maybe begin the discussion if we want to consider going to the issues come in there. It is more invasive. You do pull the kids down. They tend to bring, in the past, a trailer on site. They do this in the trailer, but my personal opinion is probably more accurate.
Well, I just think, you're talking, if this is a day or two, so someone is using drugs on a Friday or Saturday night, it's a question mark as to whether whether anybody's worried about it even being caught on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And it seems to me that, I don't know, that if the cost isn't crazy, that it would be worth.
Well, I think there are 2 parts to that. Number one, do we test on the same day? Have we had a pattern, or do you guys recall? I mean, if we looked at these dates, would we find these are all days of the week? Or is there, and it's okay if there is, we just need to.
I would say usually Tuesday through Thursdays, kind of depending on what's going on in the school and that day, what works for me and the school nurse.
Okay, so we could vary it to Mondays now and Fridays, but I think that's a good, we'll ask the company and say, what do, their business is to tell us, is there, what length of time will a cotton swab pick up the use of marijuana? How much later will it pick up the use of an amphetamine, a barbiturate? And we'll ask them, what length of time will a urine test do that? And that would be good information. Now, frankly, I was going to say, these people work year-round. We can start to compile some of this information even yet this month for next month, because so I think what we're really looking for from the company is, what is the detection period, and how does that period compare to any other kind of test, and is there an accuracy? And let's let them tell us what they think, because you can't make a good decision unless you have enough information to know. Cost, time, detection. This is human, it's political, but I do think that if we're going to start to use a urine test, which is more invasive, we may want to have some conversation. We might find people are 100% behind that, because frankly, I'll tell you what, it's what we did back when we started this in '93.
There was a lot of controversy over it, too.
Yeah,
there was controversy over people feeling violated by the urine thing, and parents.
That's important to know.
Parents not wanting it.
Well, and times are a lot different now.
And
It's a lot
times could be
more,
different.
a lot more common now, and a lot more, just, I think it's worth knowing.
Sure. Let's at least get the questions on cost, reliability, length of time, and find those two things out. You guys want to work on that?
Yeah, we can handle that.
Anything else for? Thank you. Now, normally I would say if I would have been smart enough to put this issue up on 1, 2, or 3, I'd say you don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting. But frankly, we've probably only got minutes, so sit in your seats.
No action to be taken there. Item number 12, resignation termination.
Yeah, and my recommendation is that you uphold my termination of employee under 2018-01. It's explained in the letter, and names are confidential until after your action. But I'd recommend you uphold that termination or approve it.
Laura?
I move that we uphold the termination just referenced.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Debbie. It's been moved and seconded that we uphold the termination as recommended. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item number 13, employment recommendations.
Dr. Trebley?
As presented in your board packets, we'd like to recommend Mr. Adam Horston as a teacher in the high school, Miss Jacqueline Disney, teacher in the Speedway Junior High. 2 homeschool advisors, Mrs. Samantha Irwin and Mrs. Lauren Doyle. And also Secretary of Exceptional Learners, Mrs. Lindsay Austin. The 2 additionals, Mrs. Andrea Tinky and Miss Erin Malloy for the high school. And then the following ECA extra duty assignments. Miss Kelly Kirkhoff, Mr. Timothy Kurtz, Mr. Nick Beard, and Miss Kylie Keevy.
The board's pleasure.
I will make a motion to accept the recommendations as presented.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we accept the employment recommendations as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 14, recognition of visitors and/or other business.
Anything else for us?
Okay, great. Item 15, we will adjourn to approve claims.